Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope everyone is well. Me, I'm doing alright, hanging in there, still trusting, still believing in God and all those things. So I wanted to come in here because I had to reflect on certain things, and I don't know. I'm trying to be as obedient as I can to God, and sometimes obedience comes. It's hard. It's not always easy. So I remember the first video I ever posted about when God asked me to start a video, a YouTube channel, and how I felt about it. I knew He wanted me to come in here and tell you guys my story. I knew He wanted me to be transparent and vulnerable, because what I lived through is common. Sadly, it's a very common thing, and a lot of people go through it, and a lot of women go through it, and even men, deal with sexual abuse and molestation and all those things. And we don't talk about it, and we never become free of it, and instead we make decisions based off our trauma, our hurt, our pain. And I've done that for such a long time. So for 40 years, I kept my life hidden for 40 years, and I was living the best I could under the circumstances. I never made a good decision. I never made a smart decision, I would say. Every decision I made was based off of trauma, off of trauma. It was never off of a sound and healthy mindset. So let's just go back briefly, right? So I started being molested when I was 5 or 6 years old, and the first person that ever touched me and kissed me was my aunt's husband. And I'm outside, so you guys are gonna hear a lot of trucks and everything, because I am by the park. So so the first person that ever touched me and made me feel uncomfortable and touched me inappropriately was this man. And I don't recall when it first happened. I just recall it always happening. So I cannot pinpoint the first time it happened. And I knew it was in my aunt's house, because my parents always leave me at my aunt's house because they had to go to work. And I felt like I was there quite often. Like I was there a lot, like spending the night over my aunt's house, because it really happened when I was spending the night. Like it didn't happen when there was people there. It didn't happen when the house was full. It usually happened at night when everybody was asleep. So I remember he used to put on a show on TV, the Robin Bird show. And I don't know if anybody ever heard of Robin Bird, but she is just a Caucasian lady that would come in, and she would have guests, and they would do inappropriate things, and they would show their breasts, and they would touch each other. And I guess that was his way of introducing to me what he was about to do. But of course, at 5, 6 years old, you don't understand what is going on. You just go along with it because you don't know any better. And unfortunately, I was one of those kids that wasn't taught that these things can happen. I wasn't taught, if somebody touches you, or you feel inappropriate, if somebody does something to you, talk about it, say something, speak up. I wasn't taught that. I was never taught that. I knew it was wrong because it felt awful. I knew it was wrong because he was the only one doing it to me at the time. I knew it was wrong because I was a kid. You know what I mean? And the people that I saw on TV doing these acts were adults. They weren't kids. They were adults. And I was a kid. Like I was, kindergarten, first grade. I was a child. And when he first started, it was just, me putting me on his lap and bouncing me around. And yeah, that's how it started. Him putting me on his lap. He started touching me. Him forcing his tongue in my mouth. Yeah, one, this is hard. Two, there's a lot of people walking past me, so every time somebody passes me, I kind of like stop. And there's dogs around me, so I have to watch myself because, dogs are dogs, and sometimes pet owners let their dogs loose, and you gotta just be watchful, right? So, so he just started to shove his tongue in my mouth and, made me put me on his knee, bounce me around. I guess that was the introduction, right? When God told me to write a book and I started writing the book, it's when it dawned on me that one time. I was old. I was older than 5 for sure, but maybe I was like, I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10. I think I was about 9 or 10. And he had me on the bed. Now my cousins, my 2 male cousins, were on the side of us, so I was in the middle. My uncle was next to me, and then one of my cousins was on my right, and then my other cousin was on the left towards where my uncle was. So I remember we was watching TV. He unzipped his pants and he put my hands over his penis. I remember him keeping my hand. He basically had his hand over my hand to make sure that I wouldn't move my hand. And I was literally masturbating this man while my cousins were next to me. And when I had that realization while I was writing this book, it hurt me so bad. And yeah, it just hurt me so bad because it wasn't until I was writing the book that it dawned on me that I was literally pleasing this old man while my cousins were on the bed with us. And I remember looking under the covers because I was like, what the heck am I touching? Like, I didn't realize what I was touching. It just felt really disgusting. And I was just like, what is this that I'm touching? And so I looked under the covers and it freaked me out. And I was just like, shocked. And I quickly got from under the covers because I was like, what the heck? Like, I didn't understand what was going on. So all that time between I was the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, he was grooming me for these things. And I didn't know what was happening. I just knew that, we would play doctor, we would play cowboy, I would play mommy, he would play the daddy, and we would do things that were not normal for a kid to do with a grown man. I was basically being groomed to be his little whore, or at least that's what it felt like at the time when I used to think about it. I remember one time I went out with some friends, and this was like in my adulthood. I went out with some friends, and somebody spiked my drink, and I wasn't feeling good. I remember telling the people I was with, I don't feel good, I'm ready to go. We got in a taxi. As soon as I got out of the taxi, I collapsed. So they had to call the ambulance, and I went to the ER, and I was completely passed out, knocked out. And I remember waking up in the hospital. I had IV. I was talking gibberish. I was talking craziness. But I remember one thing that I said was, I allowed him to keep touching me and using me so he won't touch you. And I was referring to my little sister. And I was like, she looked at me like, what are you talking about? And she didn't understand what I was talking about. But the reason I allowed myself to be used like a doll and just used was because he would threaten me and say if I would allow him to do that to me, then he would start doing these things to my little sister. And I was trying to protect my little sister at all costs, even if I didn't understand it at the time. I just figured, you're already doing this to me, you don't have to do it to her too. Not knowing the level of trauma I was going through. I didn't understand the trauma in my life. I didn't understand. But I just knew that I wanted to protect my little sister from it happening to her. As the years went by, his son started then molesting me. I guess sometimes, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That's an accurate statement in this case, right? So his son started molesting me, and it was just wild. And I guess he's the one that taught me what else my body can do and what else my vagina can feel other than just using the bathroom. Right, so yeah. So he was the second person to molest me, my cousin. Then 3 other cousins of mine that we used to live in the same building were also molesting me. So now that's 5 people molesting me around the same time, during the same time. If I was not in one house, I was in another house, basically being tossed around like a joint. Everybody playing around, everybody playing with me, everybody like if I had a sign over my head, touch me, play with me, use me, and I never had a sign over my head. It was just happening. Like the demons were basically having a field trip with me, and using people in my family to try to destroy my life, because in essence that's what the devil was doing. The devil was trying to destroy me. The last person in my family that would try to molest me was my own dad. And the reason I say try is because at this point I've had enough of people touching me, of people using me. I remember it was my cousin had gotten married on this particular day. This is why I remember it so vividly, because my cousin had gotten married and there was a fire. We used to live on the first one. There was a fire in the basement, and the boiler was about to explode. And so the boiler just so happened to be underneath my bedroom. So everybody got out the apartment, everybody got the building, whatever, everybody was fine. But when we entered back into the apartment, I had a huge hole on my floor, huge, that I could see the basement. And so my dad said, go sleep in your brother's room. Your sister's gonna sleep with your mom. I'm gonna sleep in the living room. So I was like, all right, cool. At this point, my dad was the only man I trusted. He was the only man that didn't touch me, that didn't hurt me, that didn't violate me, until this day. And I want you guys to remember this day. So this happened on 10/20, and I believe it was 10/20 of 89 or 88. The year, I will have to look back at the book, but I know the date 10/20 for sure. And the reason I know is because I will let you guys know later why I know the date. But So yeah, so I went to go sleep in my brother's room. My brother snored, like snored so loud, so I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get any sleep. I got up, I went to the bathroom, and my dad said, you know, what's wrong? And I said, oh, he's snoring, I can't sleep. Now, mind you, my dad was sleeping in the living room. So in order for me to go to my brother's room and go to the bathroom, you know, we had to pass by the living room. So my father said, oh, when you come back, just sleep beside me, sleep here. And I was like, okay. And again, at that point, my dad was the only man I trusted. So I was about 12 or 13. I was in middle school. And so I laid down next to my dad. And as I'm falling asleep, I feel his hands going underneath my shirt. And I was like, I thought I was bugging out. Like, I was like, nah, this can't be happening because my dad would never. Right? So I'm like, what is going on? And I open my eyes and I see that his hands are underneath my shirt. And I was like, oh no, like, we're not doing that. Actually, I'm lying. He tried to put his hands in my pants. Now, at this time, I used to wear a bunch of sweatpants, and I used to tie my sweatpants super tight because I didn't trust nobody. So the first thing he tried to do was actually put his hands in my pants, but because he couldn't get in, because I had tied my pants so tightly, he couldn't put his hands in my pants. Then he tried to go up my shirt. And as soon as I recalled, and as soon as I felt it, and I opened my eyes, and I saw that his hands was underneath my shirt, I got up quickly off the bed, and I went back to the bathroom. And so he never got a chance to touch anything, although the devil was trying to use him to touch my private areas. But I wasn't on, you know, like, to me, that would have been the icing on the cake. Had my dad actually been able to touch anything on me, on my body, I would have been a complete mess. I probably would have ended up on drugs. I probably would have ended up, like, I don't even know how I would have ended up, but I'm sure it would have been way worse than how I was living my life, because then I really would have felt like dirt and crap and a nobody. Right? Because all these people and all these men are touching on me and kissing on me and making me do things, and, you know. So that was the last time. That was the last time I allowed someone to put their hands on me. So anyway, I'm gonna leave this here. I'll pick up where I left off and further discuss with you guys my life as a child in a home where nothing but perversion was running rapid in my family. Have a blessed day, guys.